everyone, and welcome back to another video with me, Elizabeth Bishop, your Autodesk Certified Instructor. Today, I'm going to explain some of the ways you can personalise your user experience when using Fusion, to make it as easy and quick as possible to get your work done. This can be especially important if you're coming from another software and are used to things set up in a certain way. But this video also covers some brand new options in Fusion, as well as some tips that even experienced Fusion users may not have known about. So the first thing we'll look at is the mouse navigation settings. So the default mouse settings in Fusion are, in order to orbit, you need to hold down Shift and the middle mouse button, and this will orbit your part like this. For panning, it's just the middle mouse button and you can move that around. And then to zoom, we can use the scroll wheel in and out like this. Now, if you're used to something different, you may want to change these preferences to match the CAD package that you're coming from. If you head up into the top right, under Preferences, and go down to Pan, Zoom and Orbit shortcuts, you can change these from Fusion to one of the other CAD packages that you're more used to using. For example, if you're coming from SolidWorks, you can change these to SolidWorks, and this will set your orbit to be the middle mouse button. Other preferences that you may want to consider are your orbit type, whether you want to reverse your zoom direction. Do you want your scroll wheel to go in one way to zoom in, the other way to zoom out? And also another one to check is your default modelling orientation. I particularly like to have this in Z-up modelling. There's various other settings that you can choose here to personalise your user experience in Fusion. Another useful tip here is if you double click your middle mouse button, this will automatically zoom and orientate your part to the centre of your screen that you're working in. The next thing I wanted to look at are environment and camera settings and show you how to set these up to work best for you. This here is our browser, and you can move these around and position them where you'd like to. Occasionally, you might lose something that you're working on, say a box for when you're in a Sketches or even your browser tree. If you lose anything, a good tip is to go to the File menu, go to View, and you can reset to default layout. This puts everything back in the normal places that they exist. You can also use the same view settings to show and hide things like the view cube. This is our view cube up here in the top right. We can use this to orbit and navigate around the part as well. We've got our browser, which I just showed you before, and comments at the bottom as well. And you can set these up to show or hide depending on which of these preferences you want to use. Under display settings, this is where you can change your visual style. You could go for a shaded setting or a wireframe, depending on your preference and what you like to work with. I prefer to work with shaded and visible edges only. In the same box, in display setting, we can also change our camera settings. So we currently have this in Orthographic, which gives us this type of view and look, but you can change this to perspective, which gives you that perspective view when you're using your camera. In terms of our grid setup, I quite like this clean look that we have when we're in our model workspace. But if you like to have your grid and layout grid showing all the time, you can do. And there we have that plane and layout grid showing our origin of this particular part. You can change your grid settings in here to if you want it to be an adaptive grid or a fixed grid on a particular size. Again, depending on your preferences and the type of work environment that you like to work in. In terms of our environment and the setup and look of Fusion, we currently have this in a photo booth, but if you prefer to work with something darker in the background, you could change this to one of the other environments here, such as the dark sky or the grey room. You can set up multiple views if you want to have different orientations on your part, or just that single view there. And you can set to synchronize these, so if you zoom in on one, it will zoom in on the other. Just go back to the single view there. On top of being able to personalise our preferences using those environment settings, people often ask me, is there actually a dark mode for Fusion? And yes, there is. We can activate this using the preferences in our settings. So heading up to the top right and clicking on Preference, and then in the General panel, we can actually change the theme of Fusion. So I currently have this set up as Fusion Classic, but if you wanted to, you could change this to light grey or dark blue. So the light grey setting here will just change a few different aspects in the appearance of Fusion here. But we can also change this to our dark mode or our dark blue mode in the theme here. And you can see the font changed when I changed that from Fusion Classic to light grey. So selecting dark blue and applying that We can see that a lot has changed here, but our background is still in that white setting. And this is because if you've previously adjusted your display settings environment to a custom canvas colour, these settings will remain unchanged. If you want these to match your preference mode, you need to head into Environment and select Theme Default from this. And this will mean it will update to match the environment that you're in. It's also possible to get your themes to match to your operating system dark or light mode. In this case, if you had an operating system of light, this would map to Fusion Light Grey, and an operating system of dark would go to Fusion Dark Blue. If you want to set this up to match your operating system, head up into Preferences, and under that theme setting there, you can click Match Device Theme. So for me, I have operating system light, and that would update my theme to match this here. Another great tip for customizing your workflows is around the toolbar up the top here on Fusion. If you have particular tools that you use more than others, what you can do is you can pin these either to your toolbar or to your shortcuts. To do this, you go down to the tool you want to use, click on the three dots, and you can click Pin to Toolbar. You'll see that Emboss tool is now being added to my toolbar at the top here. You can then click and drag this to reorder it into a particular order that works for your workflows. If, for example, you always did Sketch, Extrude, Emboss, you can set this up. You can also add this to your shortcuts. So your shortcuts is when you use the right mouse click button, and they're down here at the bottom. So to add one to your shortcuts, we could go to the loft, we could click the three dots and pin to shortcuts. That means when I right click, I've got that loft down there and can easily access that. One final one to mention here is the keyboard shortcuts. So say we wanted to add a keyboard shortcut for loft, you can click Change Keyboard Shortcut. To add one in, you need to type in the keyboard shortcut that you want to use. For example, if you wanted to use E, this will pop up and say this conflicts with the Extrude shortcut. So it will tell you if you're trying to overwrite a particular shortcut. So L, you might think, oh, I really want to use that for loft, but that conflicts with line. You can continue, and that will remove the shortcut L for line in this case and replace it to be L for loft. So that's how you can set up custom keyboard shortcuts. And if you ever need to, you can always click Reset Default, and that will revert that back to its default settings. So I hope that's given you a quick insight into setting up some of your preferences and getting started in Fusion when you're coming from another CAD package. If you've got any questions, please do post them in the comments section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.